Hello and welcome to another episode of Collective Effervescence. I'm your host, Los, and with me as always,
Luis, what's goody?
what's up everyone? It has been a while since we released our last episode, but we are nonetheless excited to be here. We have some great topics and conversations that we want to that we will be having today, and we are just excited to continue to be on this journey with you all and continue to build the community that we have around this podcast. As always, we are grateful for the engagement and everything that you guys have done to be a part of this journey with us. And as I have gotten feedback from friends or different people in my life saying, hey, I've listened to this episode and here's how that episode really affected me, or here's what I took from that episode. So having those moments with some of you has really been special to our podcast here, and it really made us think about why we're doing this, and it shows that we are having a direct effect on people, and to be able to see that only 4 episodes in now, coming on our 5th here, it's been something really special. So I'm definitely looking forward to extend our impact as we continue along this journey.
Yeah, man. Episode 5. I mean, I think it's a good little milestone that we're coming across. I'm excited. I think you had mentioned journey just now, and I think in this episode, a lot of things that we're going to talk about is our own personal journeys and our deals, or how we've dealt with mental health, and we've gone through our own share of depressive episodes or whatever. So I think I'm really excited to be vulnerable and to kind of give you guys an insight about our lives and about like why we're actually doing this. We probably should have went over this earlier in more detail in the early episode, but hey, better late than never. I think it's really important for us to be able to be this vulnerable and to kind of just let you, my whole thing with this episode and the topics we're talking about is just like, you're not alone. We've all gone through our own, depressive episodes or whatever. So we all have our demons and scars and stuff. So I think it's just a good time for us to reflect and kind of tell you a little bit about ours, just so you know that no, we're not experts, but we've gone through things, and it's just another that at some point, if you take the steps and you do the work, you could come out on the other side a better person. Not to say that I'm out of my, depression and all that kind of stuff. I still feel it all the time, but it's just like, I think with therapy and everything, for me, it's worked out, and I think I'm in a better place for it.
Yeah, definitely. We are definitely going to have more and more to share with you all as we progress with this podcast. Like as Luis was saying, it's a consistent journey. It's a consistent battle. There are brief periods where you maybe don't experience any depression or any anxiety, and things are going well for you for that time. And that's okay. Those are good things. You got to really take advantage of those moments, but also put in the work to continue your own mental health, tenacity and strength, because there will be times where you'll hit a little bump in the road, go through some depression or anxiety, and in those moments, the work that you put in to really grow and develop yourself will really shine. Not saying that whatever battle or anything that you go through will be easy, but your approach to being able to overcome those moments will really reflect and be more prevalent, I guess I should say. So it's something that we are constantly learning on how to better ourselves, and the point of us sharing to us our journey today a little bit more, as Luis was saying, was just to show you that hey, we're not professionals, but we're real people, and mental health has been something that has greatly affected our lives. So we want to make sure that we are doing our part in having that vulnerability and transparency with you all with some of the things that we are going through.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think for sure. I mean, it's just like, if you haven't dealt with, depression or anxiety, like that's awesome. Like good for you. I mean, but it's just like, but if anyone who has dealt with it before, you kind of know, you know, the effects of it and what it can do. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's just like, I think I would just like to share my journey with you all, and I think Carlos does too. I mean, so yeah, just so we have, because we have this platform now, and it's just like, I just think it's important to be like, hey, we've dealt with our own shit too. I mean, so it's just like, not to say that, you know, I don't know. Well, where I'm trying to go with that, but it's just like, yeah, I just think, we all have our journeys, and I think it's important to be able to share that and to be able to talk about it too, because I think once you talk about it, and once you share it with other people, you kind of learn like, oh, hey, like I've gone through that too. Like, what did you do to kind of like get yourself out of it, or whatever. I mean, so it's just like, that's the whole point of us starting this and being part of that community, to be like, hey, just bounce ideas off of each other or whatever. I mean, so
Yeah.
but yeah.
Well, I think a big thing, at least for me, it's mental health, as we know, is not at the forefront of our lives. We don't really get to talk about it as much as we need to, and we don't get to express ourselves. So being in the position that we are in, we want to take a moment to show that, hey, it's okay to talk about these things. And if you have a friend or someone in your life, or even a professional, or even if you don't have anybody, reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to talk about you and your journey, and kind of have a conversation about that. But what I'm trying to say is, it's important for us to share our stories. It's important for us to be vulnerable and transparent and be open about these things, because there's so many people that feel that they are alone in their process. They're suffering in silence, but you don't have to be silent. You can talk, you can express yourself, you can express your happiness, your pain, your anger, your sadness, whatever you're feeling. We have to allow ourselves, the time to be able to express those things and share our stories, because if not, it makes your battle tougher, and it gets hard when you do feel alone at times. So, I mean, I'll transition this a little bit into what I've been going through recently. About mid-February, I did my transition up to Santa Barbara, and it was a hard 2 weeks for me. I think physically I was prepared for the move. I obviously had a place to live and was getting my things up there, but what I didn't do was allow myself to prepare mentally and emotionally for it, like for the move. And unfortunately, as a result, I fell into a deep state of depression and anxiety. For me, moving has been incredibly hard. I've moved around so much when I was younger, and didn't really have like a much stability in my life. And I think that's why I tend to struggle with big moves or big changes in my life. And I should also note that most of what I'm talking about now, and the reason why I can talk about my perspective so much, is because I finally started therapy. So that's been really amazing. But that, I just kind of look a little side note. It goes to show how much growth and what you can learn when you do therapy. So I'm really glad I got the opportunity to do that. But anyway, as I go through these changes in my life, and as I go through these moves, whether they're physically or mentally or emotionally, there are times when I just do whatever I can to keep myself busy. I subconsciously ignore my emotions because I don't know how to handle them in those instances. And I think having that separation from my family after being away for a year, I got really, into, I developed stronger relationships with the people that I went to high school with. We started hanging out more, going golfing and doing all these things. So I was building relationships back home that I had to say goodbye to, because I was making this career move for myself. And so I really just did not take the time to make sure that I was okay and I was ready for that move. And eventually it caught up with me. And I had some really, really tough days where I mean, for the first time in 2 years, I thought about suicide. And for me, that was a very scary thing. And I luckily have the coping mechanisms and my steps and techniques that I can work with to get me through those times. But that was also something, I think for me, it's like I've put so much work into my own mental health journey, but there's a time where, okay, I'm actually struggling and I'm having those dark thoughts again, or I'm having those really strong emotions of or feelings of pain. And I think what really hindered that process was me not allowing myself to feel. I try to keep myself busy by, listening to music, working out, obviously going to work. And I just kept pushing it back and pushing it back and pushing it back until it hit a point where I could no longer ignore it. And kind of what I wanted to say a little bit more in regards to me moving and not having that sort of stability. One thing that I had to learn about myself is when I go through these challenges in my life, or I go through, certain things where I am in need of more support emotionally because I am not strong enough to be able to make it through myself, I tend to set anchors in people. And that is something that has, I mean, especially this time around with my depression, really affected me. Instead of, looking to myself and giving myself that space to work through my emotions and work through my own mental health, I give all that effort to somebody else in order to keep myself going a little bit more. And unfortunately, that happened this time around for my move to Santa Barbara. I essentially made someone an anchor for me back home and really invested into them emotionally. And it in the past, it's gotten to this point. I don't think it did this time, but in the past, I've developed a codependency on that person because I'm putting so much into them. And, this time really, talking through that part of my life with my therapist and really trying to understand why I do these things and why I'm experiencing the emotions that I am. It's because I'm not taking the time for myself. And unfortunately, I invested too much into that person emotionally and it was too fast. And they had to back off a little bit in order to protect themselves and even myself in the future down the road. And that was very hard for me because I was already feeling so sad and hurt and just confused with my move, because I was supposed to be moving to Santa Barbara to be happier, to do a job that I love, which I do. But along with it came these dark and heavy emotions that I wasn't ready for. So for me, then putting all of my emotional needs into one person and then that person having to step away, like that was really what just really brought me down. And that was probably one of the hardest moments that I've had these past couple of weeks. But Luis, I do want to give you a shout out when I was kind of really going through it. It was tough. It was tough that morning. And I was laying in bed, just crying, listening to my sad music, whatever. And I was like, I got to talk to somebody. So I reached out to Luis and that dude responded, almost instantly. And having you within my support system, I just definitely want to say thank you, because you definitely helped a lot. And knowing that you are there for me when I have those times of weakness and pain, it has been, it's huge. Just thank you,
Yeah, for sure, man. Got that text and I was like, oh shit, my boy's in pain. I'm like, what's good?
Yeah.
That's just, I think when you kind of find yourself in that spot, it's kind of hard to kind of think like, who can I reach out to? Who can I talk to about this? Because, for me, when I first moved out here to LA, or Torrance, whatever, I didn't have anybody. I just had, I had my ex at the time or my girlfriend at the time, I should say. And it was just like, that was it. I felt, so I understand where you're coming from when you're talking about moving and all that. You had your friendships and this and that, and then you go and move. Like for me, I had this whole plan set up. I was going to go to college. I was going to graduate and move to Oregon or Washington. That was like, I'm going to do this. And then of course, life happens and things happen and whatever. But then ended up down here and I just felt so isolated because like I didn't have my parents weren't 2 hours away or an hour away, and like my close friends that I had, you know, weren't close. I mean, so it's just like, you know, I didn't have my brothers or, you know, really anyone really to talk to, except for, you know, for my girlfriend at the time. And, you know, I think I kind of did, you know, what you did a little bit, just kind of put a lot of emphasis like on them and put a lot of like, not pressure, but just a lot of, just put a lot on their shoulders and just be like, yo, like you're the only person I have to talk to. And I made it known that she was the only person I had to talk to.
Yeah.
I mean, until I finally branched out and met, you know, some other friends and stuff. And now I think I'm finally in a place to where if anything does happen, I kind of know who I could turn to. I mean, so, but yeah, no, I mean, just, you know, just the fact that you reached out, I was like, whoa, wow. Cool, like no, not like, you know, cool. Like, oh yeah.
He's struggling. All right,
I was just like, oh, like cool, like, you know, like all right, like time to step up and, you know, just be like, yo, man, like what can I do to help with this? I mean, so I think it's really important to have people like that in your circle. I mean, so.
And one thing I kind of laugh at a little bit when I'm going through it, like everybody's gonna know. Like everybody's gonna know I'm going through it, and like I'm not afraid to post on social media. Like, fuck, I am hurting, I'm in pain, and I want to give a little explanation behind that. One, it's obviously a cry for help because, you know, I'm hurting, and I want people to know, and I want someone to reach out to me to be like, hey, dude, are you good? I'd like to check in because sometimes you know, you really need that.
Yeah.
So for one, obvious, it's a cry for help, but also at the same time, it's kind of relating back to the reason why we do this podcast. It's, you know, if we are not, you know, showing our hardships. I mean, you hear everybody complain about it now. It's, oh, Instagram and social media is a highlight reel. Everybody posts the best of the best. So it's like, okay, well, why not just be real and post when I'm just really down and bad? And I do that, and I think more people should. I mean, obviously, it'd be tough if you go on your feed. I think for you, I mean, your feed, your news feed or whatever, and everything is just dark, heavy shit. Like that would be hard to take in, but it's real, and I don't think people are real enough. And for me, it's like I'm not going to complain about something if I'm not doing anything to change it.
Yeah, I mean, if we're gonna just my opinion about social media, if we're gonna get into that, it's just like I don't really post much on there. I mean, I'm just the type of person that I like, and you know, I keep to myself. And that's just how I've always been.
And everyone's different. You know?
Yeah, and then at the same time, though, that's not good either because a lot of times during my relationship, it was just like, I would just keep things to myself and not say anything. And then at some point, like, oh, the toothbrush is on the counter again. And then just like just blows up because who gives a shit about a toothbrush? It is obviously about something else. And then it was just like, you know, I was horrible at communicating. But it's just like, yeah, I mean, it's just like you have to have some kind of outlet to be able to, well, whether it's social media, whether it's, you know, going on a walk or a run or go to the gym or whatever. Everyone kind of has their coping mechanisms, and I think it's important to have those. I mean, because like you said, like because not everyone's gonna put, you know, the good and the bad on. I mean, there's a few on there. I follow some parents and stuff, and they put like, yeah, this is my life, like, you know, whatever. So I mean, so it's cool to kind of see like, oh, like, you know, they do the same thing I do. They're just trying to get by.
Yeah.
But it's just like, I think it's important to have those, you know, those coping mechanisms.
And one thing that I really want to talk about, in regards to coping mechanisms, because this is what I just experienced. I mean, when I say it was a dark time, it was a really tough time for me mentally, where I was just drained, and I mean, I just felt just immense pain. My anxiety was through the roof. It was just one dark day after another, and the only thing that really kept me going was just work. And if I didn't love my job, dude, fuck.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because like just going through and like that period of my life, and the last time I thought about suicide was when I had that high depression, I had that high anxiety, and I had nothing else going for me in life. Like that was just like one of my low points. And for me to experience that again, but but on the flip side, to have something that really kind of kept me going and something that I was passionate about and loved, I was like, I'm so grateful for that. But the reason why I really took the step to start therapy after saying it all these years was because when I was probably going through like the peak anxiety these past 2 weeks, it was I developed coping mechanisms and I put them into play and nothing worked.
Yeah.
I like would listen to music. I would, go for a walk, go to the gym, or do things that I knew helped me and that would get me through this dark time or through this struggle in my life.
Yeah.
Nothing worked.
Right.
And my anxiety just kept it. I mean, from the moment I woke up to the moment I went to sleep, I was just anxious all day. And I think at that point, I just felt so lost. And I was also afraid because I was like, I'm supposed to have these things that make me feel better. And in the past, I've used them and I felt better. But now I'm at a really low point and I'm using them and nothing is working. Like I was already feeling kind of worthless. And now that I took my steps and did my process to feel better and not have it work, that was just like, oh, okay, I need professional help.
Yeah.
Like I genuinely cannot do this on my own.
For sure.
And what kind of pushed that, I don't know if you guys know, I post her all the time on our Instagram, but she's a psychologist. Her name is Dr. Julie Smith. She has a book that just came out. I'm going to be reading that a little bit more, but she had a post on Instagram that really just resonated with me. And after I kind of did this little mental switch, it instantly made me feel better and my anxiety toned down a bunch. But what she was saying was, imagine you're in the ocean and you try to stop the waves from getting to shore. Like you are going to struggle the entire time to the point of exhaustion.
Right.
And now on the flip side, she was like, imagine you're in the ocean and your main focus was not to stop the waves from getting to shore, but to just get through the wave itself. Like if you put all your effort into just making it through that one wave, and she's like, your feet will come off the ground a little bit, but you'll settle back down. And for me, that was like a light bulb went off. And I think that it showed, it was like a really big opportunity for me to learn and develop a little bit more in my own mental health journey. It's like sometimes you just got to sit. You have to just sit with whatever you're feeling. And if it's anxiety, it's depression, and no matter what your coping mechanisms do, like you just got to experience it. And sometimes you have to feel and you have to allow yourself to feel because there's something you're supposed to get from it. And I think it's like when you really look at coping mechanisms, they're not meant to stop whatever is happening or stop the feeling, stop the emotion. Exactly. And that's one thing that I was like ignorant towards or really just ignored. I was like, why, when I feel this way, I do my coping mechanism and I feel better. So it stops whatever I'm feeling. And this time it was like, oh no, like it's not working. And when I told my therapist about it, she was like, the reason why your coping mechanisms don't work is because your body's trying to tell you, hey, I need you to focus on this, focus on your emotions, focus on this pain. And I wasn't doing it. It was like, yeah, of course it's not going to work because what your mind needs and what your body needs, you're constantly refusing it. And so she literally told me, she was like, just sit there. And I just want you to feel. And dude, instantly just tears again. And there have been other times in a recent therapy session where I was kind of talking about some family stuff and I started to get real choked up and I was very clearly fighting back the tears and trying to just push my way through that sentence. And she was like, did you realize what you just did? She's like, that's what you do every day in life. Like you hold back and you just push through whatever you have to do. You keep yourself busy. I mean, I'm out the house for 12 hours a day from like almost 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. And then I have my time to relax and then go to bed and get ready for the day.
Right.
And so she's like, you don't like give yourself the time to just sit there and relax or sit with your emotions because you're trying to avoid that.
Yeah.
And it was just like, yeah, it was just like I said, a light bulb. And it was just like, damn. And I think it was kind of like a reality check for me is because I talk about giving yourself allowing yourself to feel your emotions. We've talked about it on this podcast, and we've talked about giving yourself the opportunity to feel. But the very thing that I preached about on here, I wasn't doing for myself. And that for me was just like, fuck, like that. I was like, it was just like a wake up call. And it's something that I've definitely struggled with. I always tend to take care of other people or put my energy into other people or other things around me. Mm-hmm. And there are just times in my life where at some point it's going to catch up to me and it's going to break me down. And that happened again. I think that's, I don't know what, like subconsciously, what's the reasoning behind me just not putting in that effort to myself, but being willing to get it from other people or give it to other people. So, I mean, it's a huge learning process, but if I didn't allow myself to go through this experience, or if I didn't, not necessarily allow, but just go through it in general, there's things that I never would have learned. And I think that's really important too, that we want to make sure it's, don't allow yourself to go through something for no reason. Try to take something from it. And there always will be something you can take from it, because the odds of you going through another experience like that, especially if your attitude or behavior don't change, is really high. Yeah. So at least take some, okay, I went through this really dark time. Well, what did I take from that? When I go through it again, maybe then I can apply what I know now. So it's a constant process, but man, I'll tell you what, I got my ass kicked, and it was humbling. Like that was probably the hardest. Yeah. Or I got the shit knocked out of me, dude. But hey, I'm here today, and I'm still kicking.
For sure. I mean, it's just like, to kind of go into my story or my depressive episode, and it happened a couple years ago. Things didn't work out with my relationship, and things ended, and some other stuff happened, and it was really hard to kind of go through that. And at the same time, it was like just going through that, like stuff at home, wasn't really going well either. And then I had a job I didn't like either. I mean, so there was like a lot of things that were going on that like, I was just like, man, this sucks. Mm-hmm. And like, not to go too much into detail, but it's just like, when my ex started seeing another person, I just couldn't handle it. I was just like, oh my God. For me, it got to a point where I was just like, man, like life would be so much easier if I just didn't exist anymore. And I was just like, I kept thinking that for a little bit, and I actually told my ex, and I was like, hey, just want to end it. And then so she told her therapist, which was actually our therapist at the time, and talked to her a little bit and stuff. And then it was just really hard to go through that whole thing. And then also being so far away from my parents and my friends and everything, and it was just like, man, like this was horrible. So I ended up I had a chance to go visit my family. I think it was for Christmas time, and I was like, you know what, like I need to go back to therapy. I need to find my own therapist. I need to get back in there. So that's what I did. I reached out to went to psychologytoday.com, and you put in all your information, and I reached out to a few, and then my therapist actually reached out. She responded back, and we had like an initial phone call and stuff, and she was like, what can I help you with? I told her what was going on, and she was like, yeah, like, okay, cool, like we could work something out. So been seeing her for about a year now, and it's been, or more than a year, it's like almost 2 years, because another thing too, like throughout the whole depressive stuff, COVID happened. That whole thing was just like, that was scary too, and it was just like, man, like this is the worst. I mean, so I ended up was able to see a therapist. Was talking about things. I finally was able to get back on my feet mentally, and then I was able to move out, get my own place, and kind of start over and rebuild. I mean, so that's kind of I think it's important to be able to, to realize, when you're in the moment, like, man, like this is hard, and it's just like, because not everyone's gonna, their first thought isn't always gonna be, oh, I'm gonna go to therapy, because like I've dealt with it before too. Like there was a time, when my son was born, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm gonna be a good father, or I'm still in school, and it's like, man, this is gonna be crazy. And even, I was having, I had, Bella, my stepdaughter and stuff, and I was just like, man, like things aren't going well at all. I mean, so I ended up seeing a school counselor, and so that kind of started my whole mental health journey, was talking to her and going through things with her and stuff. And then a therapy has kind of been part of, a part of my life here and there. So I'm glad that I'm in it again. And it's funny too, because I was talking to someone the other day, like, yeah, I don't like, they're like, man, I should go to therapy. I don't believe in that stuff though. So I'm just like, I mean, so
Yeah.
for me, I'm just like, you should probably go to therapy if that's what you're thinking, like, because the stuff that you're saying and stuff, like, you should probably go to therapy. I mean, because honestly, I think everybody everywhere would benefit from at least, a couple therapy sessions here and there.
Yeah.
I think, I'm a huge believer in that. I think it really helps, because it gives you someone who's unbiased to talk to, and to be able to help you go through things, and to point out things that you don't see yourself, because you don't notice it, and they're professionals, and they're just like, oh yeah, this is what you're doing to, like, evade your feelings. I mean, so it's just like, so my therapist, she's gave me a few coping mechanisms here and there to kind of get myself grounded and things like that. And, I'm grateful for that.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I think another, amazing thing about therapy too, even if you feel like, yeah, I know myself pretty well, or I understand the things that I'm going through, even if you have put in that work for yourself, and I say this because this is the mindset that I had,
Right.
of like, yeah, I put in a lot of effort, and I feel like I'm having I mean, this is probably just ego too, but I feel like I'm having higher level conversations with my therapist about mental health, because I have like a pretty good understanding of it and myself. But there's also, I think, which is why it's been such a humbling process, there's so much that you don't know, and these people are professionals in it. And even if you do have a pretty good understanding of what you're feeling, there's always so much more that they can add on top of it, and they can help you gain an even better understanding of what you're going through. So, I mean, therapy, it's just if you're thinking about it, give it a try. Go try it out, and make sure, I think, for one too, it's find a therapist that works for you.
Right.
I'm lucky to have one right now that I really click with, and that our sessions just flow, and she tells me what I need to hear, and it's a really good beneficial relationship. So I'm glad that in my first experience, I'm able to have that. But, I think that's a really important part that people don't talk about. It's just, you got to find someone that will understand you. I think it's maybe some of the things that you've gone through, where they have the educational background, maybe cultural things that they, have to understand about you as well. So finding the right therapist is also really huge.
Yeah, I think that's a huge thing. I mean, for me, it was cool too, because after we first talked, she was like, yeah, like, let's have a session. I know you're out of town, but when you come back, let's have a session, and we'll kind of just go from there. So then, after our first session, she's like, yeah, so how do you think this is gonna work? Do you think we're a good fit or whatever? And I was like, yeah, this helped a lot. Like that first session, I cried that hard in my life, but I mean, but it was just like,
Yeah.
but it was just talking to another person. I just felt so, like, safe and comfortable, and it's just like, and that's how you should feel when you go to therapy. You should find someone who makes you feel, puts you in a position to where you do feel safe to open up, because I think there's a lot of times that, there's people that don't want to go to therapy, or don't like it, because they've had a bad experience with their therapist or whatever. I mean, so it's just like, it's just like anything else. Yeah, you have to find what's going to work for you.
Yeah. And I do want to put this out there. Another good friend of mine reached out. He Is currently working on getting his PhD in psychology. He does go to Stanford right now, and they have a service. So they do offer telehealth, and it's starting at $5 an hour. It's the PGUSP at Stanford. It's the PhD's consortium. But they do have services for adults, children, families, and couples. In addition to that, they do have a general clinic and 2 specialty clinics for the LGBTQ plus and Latinx communities with English and Spanish speakers. So it is in the SGIC. So if you look that up on Google, and we'll put some more information into that when we do post about this podcast and on Instagram. But that's a really good resource. It's no health insurance needed. It's telehealth starting at $5. And unfortunately, it only is if you live in California. But huge shout out to my friend there. I'm sure. I mean, the cost of therapy, especially with the way things are going right now, it's always on the back of someone's mind. And for this, you really, you don't need health insurance, but it is a service that like I said, they start at $5. So if this is something that could be useful to you and you want to learn more information, feel free to reach out to us and we'll connect you with the right people as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's a lot of services out there that that are outside of California, or outside maybe even the country. I'm not sure how far our reach has gone so far, but it's just
got a couple in Germany.
But I think I think it's important to be able to have those resources. I think that's something that we'll start posting up and stuff, just so they're available for you. But yeah, I mean, I think just like anything else, I think mental health is a journey. I mean, so it's just like I'm currently on my my fitness journey. Finally got back in the gym and stuff like that, and it's just like, and I'm currently just going through all that and going through work, and that's a journey in itself. Your career and everything. I mean, so I think it's important to have, because I think the stresses of every day could eventually get to you. I mean, so if you don't have a proper outlet, not to say that therapy is for everyone, maybe it's not for everyone, which is fine, but it's just like, you have to have, I think you have to have some kind of outlet there that's going to allow you to express yourself or to talk about things. Even journaling that was another thing I started doing. I should get back into it. Just writing down everything, just like, man, I feel, and then just write it all out. And then, for me, it made me feel better. There's times where I go back and I look at it from, it's kind of crazy to look at it from my perspective now to when it was, a few years ago. Like, holy shit, I was a totally different person. I was like, Luis was hurting. I mean,
I do the same thing. I have it in my phone. I have like notes of like a little journal tab or mental health tab, whatever. And I keep dates on everything. And sometimes I'll go back and read. I'm like, damn, like I was going through it. And that's amazing. And even like my therapist now, she was like, give yourself, schedule 20 minutes just to feel and just write out whatever you have to. And that's been, it's been incredible. And it's incredibly helpful. And, allowing yourself the time to feel those emotions. But I think that's another thing that's a part of the journey when you're going through it. Like when I was in it bad and I was getting the shit kicked out of me, I was like, I don't see a way out of this. And that was one thing that was also scary for me, because like nothing I was doing was working, and the feelings of depression and anxiety just progressively kept getting worse. And I was just like, there's no way out. And I couldn't see the other side. But slowly, when I started, getting better and pulling out of it, and sometimes it's nothing I do. It's nothing I do, but it's just with time, and time passes, and you start to heal. Sometimes it's longer for others, sometimes it's shorter. It just really depends on your own, mental stability at the time. But to be where I'm at now, in a place where I can look back on those past, like this past month or 3 weeks. I've been saying 2 because it feels more recent, but it's more like a month ago from mid-February when I started my transition out to Santa Barbara. But I mean, it's incredible. I think just the fact that I'm sitting here being able to talk about that stuff without bawling my eyes out because I still feel, I mean, to an extent, I still feel the pain, but I'm able to communicate my thoughts a little bit more and talk about that and not be overwhelmed by the pain that I experience. But I mean, I didn't think I would be at this stage in my mental health right now in a place where I am good and I'm making new friends and I'm talking to people and I am diving more into my work. I just hired 2 student managers, so I'm going to be able to hopefully be a good impact on them and their professional development. So there's a lot of good things that are happening and I'm super excited for it, but to really just look back and be like, wow, I was really down in the dumps and in one of the lowest places I've ever been, but I'm feeling way better now. And that it just kind of goes to show, it's if you put in the effort towards your mental health and bettering yourself, you're gonna see the results. It just takes time. But when you're on the other side, man, it's a wonderful feeling to know, like, damn, I'm doing good now.
Yeah, I think another thing too is to it's who's in your circle and who you're surrounding yourself with. I know my dad always says, like, he always says keep it moving, and he says, like, just control what you can. Everything else that's out of your control, let it go.
Yeah.
I mean, I have it tattooed on my chest. It says, just keep breathing. It's from a song by his band called We Came as Romans. And the whole message of the song is just like, just worry about the things that you can control, and everything else, just nothing you can do about it. I mean, so at work the other day, we got hit with some, with some news that wasn't, that wasn't ideal, but it was just like, hey, like, what can I do about this right now? Nothing. So it's just like, yeah, I'm upset. I kind of went through a little anxiety attack. So I took my ass on a walk, just went outside and just felt the sun and just walked around. And I was like, okay, cool. Like, took a little bit, but at the end of the day, I was just like, all right, that's it. The only thing that I could control is this and that. Everything else is just whatever. I mean, so it's just like, so now it's just like, I have a new, just a new outlook when it comes to work and stuff. And I really put more of an emphasis on that work-life balance. It's like after 5 o'clock, that's it.
Yeah.
I'm done. Like I'll get emails here and there at 7 p.m. or 8 p.m. or whatever. I'm like, I'll get to this tomorrow, or in this case, I'll get to this on Monday, because it's just not worth it to kind of carry over the stresses of work or whatever into your weekend or your time off or whatever. Because like that time, like I went to the gym today, went to the grocery store and stuff like that, and it's just like, there's better ways to, just to maneuver your time instead of just focusing, oh man, like I have to get back to these emails and this and that. Like, I'll worry about that when I'm on the clock, 8 to 5. That's when I worry about that stuff. Exactly. Everything else is whatever. And I kind of have been taking that approach to other things too. It's just like, what can I control? X, Y, and Z. Okay, and that's all I'm going to focus on. Everything else is just like, whatever else happens, just happens, and that's it.
Yeah, and I think it's little thing. It's being able to get to that point. It's definitely a process, but it's little philosophies or values that you input and little habits that you input into your daily life. Like for me, it started off, the work-life balance was something I had to learn in college because I was doing a lot. I was a full-time student working 2 manager jobs, and it was a lot to take on, and I was constantly busy. So in order to be able to work through that successfully, I had to establish boundaries for myself to be able to perform at the level that I needed to. And it was a small thing of like, when I'm home, I don't do any work or schoolwork or anything. If I need to do work, then I'll go to work. If I need to do stuff for school, then I'm going to take my ass to the library. And there are weeks where I lived in the library and didn't go home for however many days. But just creating that separation alone has been something that has been beneficial to me, being, 3 years down the road and having to come into a new work environment and being able to not have to relearn how to create that separation.
Right.
So being able to kind of put that into place and be like, okay, this is my schedule. This is when I have time for work and other people at work. And when I'm off, this is my time. And I need to prioritize that. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be these big changes, but it's the little things that you start to do in your life to become habits.
Right.
That really, you know, enable you to do these things down the road.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, I think that just falls into it with everything. I mean,
Yeah.
like for me, right now, when it comes to working out and my fitness and stuff, I'm just like, man, like I'm not seeing the results I want, and it's just like because I've gone through it before. I lost a bunch of weight and stuff, and now it's I look pretty good, whatever. But now it's just like, now I know I'm 31 now, but it's just like like you get older and things don't happen as fast as they used to. But it's just like, but for right now, it's just like. I was just like, man, I'm not being able like the first week back was probably one of the most humbling experiences I've ever had in my life. I was like, oh, I could hit this, no problem. I was like, the fuck, this is hard as shit. Like, what the hell is this? This is made out of cement, but it's just like, it's
turned up the gravity,
right? It's just part of the journey, and it's just like, this is part of it, and I've been through this before, so it's just like, so now I know that in order for you to to start hitting these goals or whatever, whether it be fitness, life, relationships, whatever, you got to start putting in the little things, and then once you experience that, like the success and everything, or accomplishing whatever goals you have, you're just that much better off because you're like, I've been here before. I know what I'm supposed to do, so I'm going to do it. I mean, so it's just like, so when it comes to mental health or fitness or work or careers or whatever, it's just like, you've been there before. I mean, for the most part, you've been there before. You know how to get to where you want to be. Just put in the effort and know your boundaries, and set up your time where, okay, it's just like, for me, I'm like 8 to 5 Monday through Friday, I'm working, but after that, do whatever.
And I think another thing to really emphasize is everyone's journey is different. Everyone's timing is different, and we don't acknowledge that statement enough, especially with how. But I mean, gosh, I keep tying everything back into social media, but it just makes the most sense. It's everyone's looking at everyone else's progress all the time, so we start comparing ourselves to other people, and that leads to further worrying or further anxiety about certain things, and we tend to overthink. But I think what you really have to be able to do is give up that control. When things aren't going right, it's just instinctual to be like, okay, I need to get this shit under control. I need to get myself under control, and I need to fix this shit. And sometimes you just need to like let it go. Let this happen. Let this time pass through, and understand when it's my time to make it out of this, that time will happen. And in those moments, something that will really help you is just being present. Yeah. I think that is I mean, there's a saying that goes, it's we like live in the past and we run from the future, so we don't get to live in the present. And that was just like, to all my overthinkers out there, like, yeah, 100%, you know what that means. It's I'm always constantly worrying about something that just happened, and because of that, I'm worrying about what might happen, and I'm just caught up in these two time zones, and I feel lost. Yeah. And it only lends to my further worrying and just difficulty in my life. And when we are going through those difficult times, we have to do stuff to ground ourselves in our present moment. And for me, I'm up in Santa Barbara on the UCSB's beautiful campus, and I love that. And I can walk 10 minutes and I'm at the ocean, and that's something that has been just a beautiful piece to my journey. It's, for one, I think with my own heritage and my own culture, I always have felt a strong connection to the ocean. But the fact that I'm in a place where I can go for a walk and be out in the sun and do these things that ground myself in my present moment, it really affords me the ability to just take a step back and to breathe. And, that's something that has been brought to my attention that I need to do more by my therapist, of like, hey, you just give yourself a moment. Don't fight back. Just give yourself a moment to just sit there. And the power of presence and being being in that moment, it's incredibly important. And I don't think it's talked about enough. And I don't think that many of us realize the impact that has.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big part of it, especially when it comes to your mental health, because it's just like, if you focus too much on the past or on the future, like your life is just gonna like run by you, and
Yeah.
then next thing you know, you're like 89, 95 years old, whatever, and just like, oh well, that's it.
Yeah.
Done.
It's like, what sort of life did I live?
Exactly.
You
So I
know?
mean, so it's like, so for me, if it's just like, I have to live in those moments. And I mean, I'm not gonna sit here and say that I'm good at it, because I'm not. But
Yeah.
it's just
Neither
like,
am I.
it's something that I need to put more emphasis on, and I mean, especially because, like, with my kids and stuff, they're like getting so big, and it's just like, man, like, I'm like, next thing you know, they're gonna be like, "Hey, can I borrow the keys so I can go to the store?" And it's like, "What?" I mean, so it's just
Excuse
like,
me?
yeah. I mean, so for me, it's just like, I try to put a big emphasis on, work is work, home is home, gym is gym, whatever, and you focus on those things when you're in that environment. But yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I think overall you just really have to simplify everything. Like, keep things simple. And that's one thing that really helped me in my own journey. I would always overcomplicate things or overthink something. And when I really just said to myself, like, hey, don't make things harder for yourself, keep your life simple.
yeah,
Just keep, and that's something that I live by. And I mean, it's just kind of I mean, all of these sayings sort of really blend together, but it's like, control what you can control. It's like, okay, I'm not going to worry about all these other things because I can't do anything about it. So, okay, what can I do for myself in this present moment?
exactly.
What do I actually have control over? What is something that I can actually have an effect on? Okay, well, let me put my energy to that. And identifying what that is also important. But it's, I think just this whole process, this whole mental health process, it's such a humbling journey, and there's so many terrible times. I won't lie. There's also a lot of great times, but I think the journey has just been amazing. And it feels weird just saying that, because I'm saying, like, yes, the bad times were amazing, because it's been a part of this whole beautiful process where I have just grown so much. And I think once you're able to just kind of get to that point a little bit more and just realize that I'm not going through this stuff for no reason, I'm not, struggling for no reason. It's all a part of me. It's a part of who I am. And just really take ownership. We talked about taking ownership for your actions, but take ownership of your journey too. Like, understand that you are on your own path, and your timing is your timing. And whether that's, hey, you start dating someone and you guys don't work together, okay, that wasn't meant to work. That's not the timing for either of you. But what is your timing? Own that. That breakup, that split, that's part of your journey. That's part of your timing, your experience on this planet. And for me, it's just like, hey, that's just what life is. And that's what my mental health journey is going to be. There's going to be ups and downs, and that's natural. And I think we've been so conditioned to be like, nope, things are up, up, up all the time. And anytime we go through something bad or we go through a hard time, it's always looked down on. But we need to be able to embrace those times. We need to be able to embrace those moments of our life, because when we look back, when we're on our deathbed, that's what makes it all worthwhile. And are you going to remember those hard times? Maybe not. There might be some where you really think about that have stuck with you, but for the most part, you think about all the great things you've been able to do. So I don't know. I think I'm getting very big picture here and very philosophical, I guess you can say. But really, I mean, you have to be able to have that mindset of, this is just my journey. This is what I have to go through at this time. And then just own it.
Yeah.
Like, why why wouldn't you? I mean, just like if you really kind of put that into perspective of like, hey, I'm going through a dark time right now. Am I going to let this dark time control me, or am I gonna just fucking, hey, grab the bull by the horn and say, let's ride?
Yeah.
You know, if you're gonna go through it, you might as well go through it and be in control throughout that process, and being able to kind of just like, fuck it, all right, we're going for a ride. Let's buckle in and let's see where this takes us.
Yeah.
And how can I get through this?
Right. I mean, I think everything is kind of like it just comes back down to like what's the lesson here? Like,
Yeah.
what am I learning right now? And it's just like, so of course it's hard when you're in the moment to be like, oh, what do I learn from this? I mean, but it's just like,
Yeah.
but after the fact, you're kind of just like, okay, like, so this happened. What did I learn? He's like, so like, I'm bad at communicating in relationships. Okay, I need to work on that. Or it's just like, I'm not putting enough effort into this or that or whatever, and then you can make adjustments as you go on. But I think everything, especially the things that do seem like, oh man, this is never going to end, like it's just another lesson. So I think once you get to that point to where you could realize like, okay, I mean, because when you're in the moment, and that's all you're going to think about. But it's after the fact, is after you allow yourself to sit in it and allow yourself to process what's going on. I think that's, once you start the healing process, it's the learning process too. So you kind of understand, okay, this job didn't work out, or this relationship didn't work out, or, this didn't work out. And it's just like, it's not a reflection on you as a person. It's just this didn't work out. Sometimes, sometimes things don't work.
Yeah.
And that's it. That's the lesson right there. It just didn't work out. I mean, so it's just like, but I think everything good or bad that happens in our lives come with some sort of lesson in the end.
Yeah. And honestly, I think sometimes the lesson was you just have to experience it. I think there's times where I think I've become aware of this, so I reflect a lot and I give myself the time to try to pull a lesson from what I'm going through. But I think in this, there's obviously a lot that I am learning through this process, but it's also like, hey, sometimes you just gotta just go through it, experience a little pain, because you need to be able to learn how to deal with that,
Yeah.
And so sometimes you just gotta experience shit. You gotta experience life, and you gotta experience the world, and maybe you'll take something from that later on. But it's try to take something from what you're experiencing, and try to always take something from your journey. But sometimes understand that sometimes you just gotta feel.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes when because you mentioned failure just now. I think that's an important thing. I mean, because like just in the gym today, I was like, yeah, I'm gonna do 3 sets of this until failure, and it's just like until you can't do it anymore. I mean, so like in this case, it's until you can't do it anymore. But the benefit to it is you go to failure, your muscles are going to rebuild, and you're going to be stronger, and you're going to be able to do more next time. I mean, so it's just like you have to have those failures. You have to lose sometimes, and it's just like, I mean, I think it's said in sports all the time, like the only way to learn how to win is to lose. And it's just like, so once you feel that, that loss, that failure, then okay, so next time I'm gonna do this. I mean, but in regards to the gym, when you go to failure, it's just like, yeah, it's just part of the journey too, because just like it depends on what you're doing. Sometimes you're just gonna fail, and that's it. And you have to be okay with that. Like I tell my kid all the time, like she thinks if she gets sometimes she thinks if she gets a question wrong, so and in the world, like, no, it's not. That's not. I mean, it's like, yes, sometimes, you're not going to be good at something. And then if you want to be good at it, you have to learn, you put the work into it. And then like next thing it's all good. I mean, so it's just like anything else, if you want to start, I don't know, like just the whole thing. What I'm trying to say is that like, life is a journey. Mental health is a journey. Fitness is a journey. Everything that you encounter in your life is going to be some kind of journey. And it's just like, if things fail, or you have some hiccups or whatever, you have to learn from it, and you have to realize, okay, this is teaching me something. This isn't going right because I'm going to learn something from it. Yeah. I mean, so once you kind of get to that point, then it's kind of like, okay, like now I learned my lesson. Now from now forward, I mean, from here on out, if this happens, I'm gonna do this and this instead, or whatever. I mean, so I just think that's the cool thing about life. Is just like, if something doesn't go right, it's not the end of the world. I mean, so it's just
Yeah.
like, no, I mean, more than likely it's going to be tomorrow. I mean, so it's just like, don't.
Yeah. And I think too, as you were saying that about like pushing yourself to failure, I think especially when it comes to the gym, I think there's two very distinct types of failure that we need to be aware of. It's one of like, you're not ready for that. So if it's the gym, okay, I'm not strong enough to do this yet. That's why I failed at this point.
Right.
So there's that I'm not ready, I'm not strong enough failure, which is okay. That happens at times, but you continue to put in the work so you can do that eventually.
Yeah.
And I think the other type of failure is exhaustion.
Yeah.
I think there are times where our bodies may be able to do that, and maybe we can do a certain lift or go through something in life, but when you're just constantly doing it and you're doing too much, you're going to fail because your body is just exhausted. And I think for me, that's the type of failure that I just experienced in my mental health and the with the depression and anxiety that I just experienced.
Right.
I was doing too much and I was going for too much and I was running my body into the point where it was just like, I can't do this anymore. And I hit that failure point where it was like, okay, I need to take care of myself for a little bit. I need to take care of my mental health. And, for the gym, for me, it's like some days I'll just be pushing heavy weight. And then fucking day 5 of the week comes around and my body feels a little tired. And it's like, okay, I should take it easy today,
Right.
or I need to rest. And I think it's important. So for me, those two very distinct types of failure of like, hey, you're not ready or strong enough for this yet. And you need to just take a moment to relax, to pause, to rest. And we have to be aware of those times in our lives. Like I said, whether it's part of the gym or what you're doing at work or your own mental health journey or just in your life in general, we have to be conscious about, okay, I've hit this moment, I've hit this time period where I failed at trying to do something. And you have to be able to understand why. Was it just because I'm not physically, emotionally, or mentally ready for this? Or is it just because I'm trying to do too much at once and I'm overwhelming myself?
Yeah.
So I think once you're able to really pick up on those two things, it kind of makes your journey a little bit easier because you're able to identify like, what does my body need? And you're actually taking the time to listen to yourself. Like your body talks to you. Like your body will let you know when either shit's going good or shit ain't going right. Like you ate that Taco Bell, your body's gonna know. You're gonna feel them bubble guts. You know what I'm saying? Like your body lets you know, your body talks to you. And so we have to be able to listen to ourselves sometimes and just really figure out, okay, why is this happening? And what is my body trying to tell me right now? So you have to be, dude, I've been craving a crunch wrap. I could fuck up a crunch wrap right now. You know what I'm saying? But, I think you just have to have that awareness for you and just trust in the process and don't be afraid to just feel. Don't be afraid to experience what you're going through. You can't just be welcoming to the good times or to the good things that you experience in life. You have to be, opening and welcoming to the hardships because there are oftentimes things that you can learn. It's your body telling you something. I think we talked about this earlier. It was like, Jim Carrey says, like your body, depression is your mind's way of telling you, hey, I'm tired of playing this character.
Right.
And I think if we develop our skills a little bit more and develop our mental health capacity and our emotional capacity, and you're actually able to listen to what you need in that moment, like I said, your body will tell you and
Right.
just allow yourself that process. And it's hard. And sometimes you don't know. And that's why you talk to professionals or you dive into that feeling or emotion a little bit more. But, I think I'm glad that we took the time in this episode to really talk about those things and just take a moment ourselves to reflect on our own mental health journey. But being able to do this on this platform and being vulnerable with all of you, we are definitely hoping that you're all taking the time to do that with yourselves or have these conversations with the people around you. Or if you are seeking therapy, maybe it's just being a little bit more open in your sessions or just allowing yourself to kind of just go through those moments. But I've really enjoyed this conversation so far today.
Yeah, I think the last thing I want to say is something I learned in high school playing football a long time ago. My coach is like, yeah, you like we'd be in the weight room or whatever, and you'd be like, yeah, like go until it's uncomfortable, and it's just like you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable because
Yeah.
if it's the gym, if you're in the gym, your body's sore, that's not comfortable. I mean, but at the end of the day, your body is sore because you tore down that muscle and it's building itself back up.
Yeah.
I mean, so it's just like, I think for a lot of people, when things go bad, they tend to not want to confront the situation because it's uncomfortable. And it's like, yeah, it is, but you have to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. I mean, for me, like with my job, I'm in sales, and I didn't like cold calling before, and even now, it's not my favorite, but comfortable with it now because it's getting me out of my comfort zone. It's allowing me to to do things I need to do to get to where I want to be with work and stuff like that. I mean, so it's just like, yeah, that's just the last thing that I wanted to say. I've enjoyed this conversation as well, but at the same, at the end of it, I think if there's something you're gonna take from this, is be comfortable with being uncomfortable.
Yeah, definitely. And like I said, just or like we've been talking about, it's be comfortable with being uncomfortable, own your journey and your life process, and just go experience some shit, go through it, experience your life. I think it's, however, as cheesy as this may sound, wake up every day and just live your best life on a daily basis, but also understand your best life is going to, excuse me, your best life is going to include some hard days or whatever. It's all part of the journey. So I think it's once you make and I think the biggest thing that we want you all to take away, it's little mental notes, little mental notes and little things that we start to incorporate into our thinking and into our perspective and way of thought. It's okay. I'm uncomfortable. Well, let me kind of, get comfortable with this situation. Let me understand that I'm feeling this right now because there's a purpose behind it.
Right.
And then understanding when you do go through things, okay, what can I take away from it? That also becomes beneficial because it just gets you thinking a little bit more. A lot of us, we go through stuff and then we push it off, but it's like, no, take a moment to reflect on that. And, we talked about this last episode or a couple episodes ago, the power of reflection.
Oh yeah.
And how beneficial that can be for your process. So as you are progressing through your own mental health journey, just start doing these little things, start, making these little mental notes. And, if there's a different way that you can think about a situation or change your perspective, start, figuring things out. But ultimately, you got to find out what works for you, but don't let it discourage you from putting in the effort into your own journey.
Yeah, I mean, I think like I said, I'm a huge advocate for therapy. I think everyone should at least give it a try. Even I think journaling is another form of therapy.
Yeah.
I think I would encourage anyone to start doing that at least, just to see the difference that it can make. But no, I mean, at the end of the day, life's a journey. So just like everything else in your life, like it's not gonna happen tomorrow. It's like,
No.
like I don't think there's one person in the whole world that's mentally stable. I mean, so it's just like, I think everyone kind of goes through their shit. I mean, so it's just like, but yeah,
Especially now, there's so much going on in our world. It's hard not to go through stuff like,
right.
And I think as we see these things develop in our world and see people go through stuff, I think what we're doing now in mental health, it just needs to be more important. It needs to be, a part of our daily lives, a part of the conversations that we're having, because we're just going through more and more stuff. So it's like, we better start taking action now to be able to prepare mentally, for these different things. But I think we had another great episode today. Like I said, I'm really excited that we were finally able to sit down and have this conversation, and I hope that you all enjoyed it. We hope that you all share your own stories, either with us or with someone else. But thank you again for being along in this process. Luis, thank you for being, that support system for me and being, such an incredible friend and co-host in this podcast. I know if Earl just choked up, but like my therapist said, I'm gonna allow myself to feel, and this is what I'm feeling. But you know, I'm just forever grateful for my own journey and for the people that I have around me, and for those of you that are, you know, being really good supporters of us on this platform and are giving us that feedback and have enjoyed what we've put out so far. Thank you all so much, because it's been just a continuous driving force for at least me. So thank you all. I've had a really great time, and I look forward to doing another episode.
Yeah, for sure. This is fun. We'll catch you guys next time.
All right, y'all, have a good one.